So welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of Respect the Hunt. So we're here today with something a little bit different than what we've done before. We're going to talk about shot placement today. So we've got 6 clips here. It's actually all the shots we took on video from last season, and we just kind of thought, last year there was really a big opportunity for us to kind of learn a lot by taking these clips and kind of breaking them down a little bit in slow motion after the hunt to see, in my instance, kind of what went wrong and just different stuff with the shot that you don't really notice in real time. So we thought we might have a good opportunity to really sort of walk through all of those, each situation, kind of talk about what's going on, what you can take away from it, and some of the stuff that I think we kind of learned from it.
Yeah, so it's as similar as some of them are. Obviously, every shot, and you guys know this, every shot has a little bit different angle, a little bit different distance, and you talk from that 20 to 30 to 25, and I think that's kind of where 32 maybe is about the farthest we shoot this year. We're on these clips. But it just shows a little bit of difference, but it's just amazing to see the reaction of the animal and what they were doing prior to that.
Right.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So I guess with that, I believe our next shot is the buck that you took last year. Am I right?
Yeah, it is.
So is there anything you want to give us the background on that and kind of introduce it?
Yeah, so Paul and I were, I think this one's November 7th. Paul and I were on our first day of, I think we had 5 or 6 days off there.
Yep.
Bub was coming in maybe with 3 days that weekend or whatever. But it was a great day. Morning was great, chilly, barometer was rising. Everything was just looking up in the time of the year. This particular farm doesn't seem to be the November 1st farm for whatever reason. It's about 4 or 5 days in. That's when we start to see that pre-rut chase. The chase gets heavy. I won't say pre-rut, but the chase gets heavy because obviously at that point there are some does coming into estrus and that kind of thing. But we sat the morning and we seen some deer activity, but it was just normal.
Yeah.
We did bump a deer, I think, that morning. But anyways, we come back in for the afternoon hunt, and we're there. And I think the whole thing from finishing our setup to starting the blood trail was, the trail was maybe 35 minutes.
Yep.
So I got in, we did some interviews in the tree, start to film this squirrel that's about 25 yards in front of us just to get some filler, and all of a sudden I heard a little bit of a buck growl back in the woods, and I looked up, and straight behind that squirrel there was legs coming through the brush. There's a big honeysuckle patch between us and a lot of travel, but then it feeds right out in front of this stand, and this has kind of become our kill stand. Well, it definitely was last year, because the next 3 clips you're going to see occur from this exact same tree. So anyways, had a young buck chase a doe off of this, and then I very enthusiastically, well, hi bud,
Hey,
how are you doing? Is there something up here? So very enthusiastically grabbed my grunt call, and I'm trying to stop this young buck just to get some video because they're flying at this point. The doe come out, we got some video of her. As I'm trying to pay attention where they went and what they're doing, Paul says, hey, right here, right here, right here. And we come back, and this guy had come out of that thicket, and I'm going to assume, he's a little more mature deer. He understood maybe where that doe was at in her estrus cycle, right? She was maybe just at the beginning, and he wasn't as enthusiastic as the young boy was.
Right.
So he comes out, I think in an answer to the grunt call, right?
Absolutely.
He's looking to see, because
he was coming with a purpose.
Yes. Before he steps out behind this tree, he gives a little snort wheeze as he steps out and turns back because he doesn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, as we get to this one, I had just ranged the tree he's behind at 29 yards. Before all of this, as we did our initial sit down, you take that rangefinder and hit 4 or 5 spots to get comfortable. And he walked right up behind that tree. And he stands there for a few seconds, but he had heard that grunt call, right? And I know this deer is a little bit alert. He's looking for something. I've had my share of bad shots because of deer dropping and things like that. So I have changed my method. I have a couple more years than Bo in the tree, and I understand that when a deer is alert, what I need to do out of that tree. So the deer, when he steps out, I know he's at 29 yards stepping out. This deer is at 31 or 32 yards when I'm getting ready to take the shot. He's severely quartering away, right? And you'll see the impact of this shot. I draw it way back, just in front of his right hip. My theory on shooting a deer, whether that deer be broadside, quartering to, quartering away a little bit, is the opposite shoulder. So that is always my aim point, right? I want to go through and hit that opposite shoulder. So when a deer comes in on me in range, I'm not looking, I'm looking through the deer. You know, we all understand the deer's anatomy, and I'm looking through it. So this shot for me, what I was thinking was catch the back of the right lung and then take out the left lung. So I'm going extreme quartering across him, but I shoot this shot with my 25-yard pin. So I know he's going to move on me a little bit, and I know that my bow shoots flat enough that 25 to 30 yards, all I'm going to be is a little bit low in the kill zone if he doesn't move. And you can see this shot, he does move. His front end moves a lot. If you pay attention, back end not so much, which is typical. They do that front shoulder drop. But once we retrieve this deer, it took out both lungs, and actually I think because of the amount of arrow in him, it was flailing around inside of him, it actually took out his heart as well. So it was a quick, clean kill. You know, I know guys don't like severe quartering shots either way, but I've had some success with both of them, quartering to, quartering away. I won't hesitate to take the shot, but like I said, my aim point is always on the opposite side shoulder. If he's any kind of quartering, if he's broadside, right, I'm coming up and trying to hit that V. And I'm tight. I shoot more front on a deer than I do let my pin drift back. Just because if he's going to move, I think he's going to move forward and he's going to move down. So I shoot a little bit low, staying like Bo talked in the last one. You know, I don't take my pin off the deer. I don't do anything that extreme, but I keep it in the lower third of that kill zone, and I'm always forward to it. If in my head, because I've had them step on me, I've had them drop on me, and aiming back a little bit to try to center punch both lungs. I've ended up with gut shots, liver shots, lots of things. So that's kind of what I take away from this one is, you know, we got that extreme quartering angle, shooting for that front shoulder. And like I said, I was shooting for a little bit of drop, which you can see in the video. There is a little bit of drop on his front end, but the impact, and by the time he comes back up, it takes both lungs out. So,
it was a great shot.
Yeah,
it really was.
Because
when you shot, I was like, oh my gosh. I just wasn't expecting him to turn as much as he had.
Yeah.
And then rewatching, because we had to watch this video multiple times to see where the impact was to where we start tracking this deer. But the more I watched it, I was like, that was just a phenomenal shot. So it was good.
Yeah.
And there's always a little bit of luck on our side.
Oh yeah.
When we make it right. I mean,
But you can't control every variable.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that going into the woods that there's always that chance.
Yeah. But that's why we try to practice as much as we can.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And that's why I overthink everything I do.
Sure.
Right.
But I do. I try to, when I pull the trigger on the release, I try to make sure that I have thought through every scenario, what can happen, what can go wrong, and what can I do to quickly and cleanly kill this animal.
Yep.
Just out of respect for them.
And I think, like you said, that's why I kind of like that rule that if, you know, wherever the deer is, if you're aiming with the goal that your arrow should exit right behind that front shoulder on the far side of the deer from where you are, you know, regardless of the angle that he's at, the distance and stuff like that, then you're going to be putting if you manage to pull that off, then you're going to be making a pretty good shot.
Yeah.
So I like that rule because it's just kind of, you know, fairly universal, you know, within the range of shots you're comfortable taking.
It just works. I mean, an extremely quartering two, no, that doesn't work. I wouldn't take it. But If he's quartering to, I'm coming into the front of that onside shoulder or onside lung, and I'm going out the back of it on the other side. So, you know, and that was the shot I had last year. It was quartering to, not extreme, but it was quartering to. This one I would love to do a video on our blood trails as well, because this one had another nuance to it. I think we found enough blood to stain a matchbook's cover on this whole trail. He expired in about 70 yards. So, anyways, but yeah, that's, I mean, for that hunt, that was my line of thinking, my thought process in the tree. And it's weird that you can think that many things through in that amount of time. And you think it's that amount of time. It's really not. But the whole time he was standing there, I'm like, all right, if he steps out and comes to me, I got to do this. And if he steps out and goes away, I got to do this. If he's going to step out and just go straight across, that was easy. Right. But the other two, you know, while he's standing behind that tree, you know, when you're drawn and you're rattled and all of those things are good, but you still, and I think that's practice, and then some of it's experience and what we learn from others. Because I've done a lot of blood trailing in the woods unsuccessfully, and listened to guys talk. So, but there again, that's the great thing about having this tool at your disposal after the shot. Right. Is you can watch it go away. You know, watch exactly what happened and how that played out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the next one we're going to break down is, I believe, it's going to be my hunt. The buck that I killed last year, and again, this is out of that same stand. It was awful good to us. So the camera, some of the stuff you see might look fairly similar. But that one, basically, I don't know if there's a whole lot to take out of that one. It was a fairly, I guess, kind of textbook situation. So that buck came in on us that morning, and that was another one. We had the decoy behind us in the field. I'm not certain if that's what he saw. It was the middle of November, so we had, you know, scent bomb out as well. I'm not sure if he smelled that or what exactly it was, but he came in. It appeared looking for something. I think I had grunted a couple times as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you said you seen this one on the edge of the woods.
Yeah, he had come and made a full circle
so
around.
That would be 80 to 100 yards from us,
and he basically made a loop out to this little point where there's kind of a bedding area, and then circled in on this trail that just kind of loops out right in front of our stand.
Almost exactly where the doe was.
Yeah,
you missed.
Exactly.
Almost the exact same path.
Yeah, pretty close. But that was the fortunate thing with that shot where I ended up. So this is one, as you'll see, we'll roll the clip here. I did stop him. So, but it was kind of cool. It was almost a direct application of the things that I had learned just a few weeks previous. I knew that distance well. He's right at about 25 yards. And I knew it well because the tree that he's standing by is basically the same tree that I shot a doe standing in front of the year prior. So, comfortable with the distance. Again, I mean, it's one of those things. In the stand, I'm not trying to calculate like, oh, I bet he's at 22 yards. But I have a rough idea. I like to get, you know, where my 20 is, where my 30 is, and kind of build, like, I guess, sort of a little, like, half circle in front of me. And then if you have those kind of, like, benchmarks, whether it be a tree or stump, whatever it is that's at your 20, and then something you know that is at, like, 30, you can kind of, you know, gauge the rest and ballpark it from there. And it's enough, like my dad was saying, you know, with, like, moving your pins on the deer or something like that. It's close enough that, you know your bow shoots flat enough where it's not really like you have to have a different aim point if you're shooting a 24-yard shot versus a 25 or 26 or something like that. But I did, with him being at about 25, I basically kind of play it like it was, you know, maybe just a touch over 20 in case there was that drop, but you've still got the margin that, you know, if he stands perfectly still and you put the arrow where you're aiming, you're going to be just fine. And that's what ended up happening. So there wasn't really any weird angles, no quartering to or away here. Another pretty straight up broadside one, and it worked out pretty perfect.
You absolutely hammered that deer.
Yeah, that was probably the best shot that I made on one. And
I think he kicks twice.
Yeah,
possibly 3 times.
Yeah, he gives 2 big kicks as he's.
Yeah, I have killed a few deer, and I have had them stand straight up. You know, the old mule kick. I mean, so this one has 2 mule kicks. Pretty impressive. But yeah, he expired at about 50 yards. I mean, he just went right down. He did his adrenaline run, and it was over.
Yeah, he went pretty quick.
He was the quickest kill as far as distance traveled after the shot of
Yeah.
anything we had this year. Yeah, he was.
And there
he
was
right
there was
there.
a ton of blood.
Yeah, good blood trail. Yeah, maybe we'll have to do a blood trail video just because we've got probably
Yeah, we
a
have-
lot to talk about there from last year's.
We have
hunts,
really
but-
three really distinct differences this year
Yeah.
in three of these. Oh, actually, the buck kills
Yes.
of these videos.
right.
The doe kill wasn't a blood trail; it was just
Yeah,
running
we knew
off
where
the
she
other
was.
bow.
Out of
Right.
this stand, we had 3 bucks killed. They were all 8-pointers. It was a great year for that.
Yeah, it definitely was. And
Hence the painting 24 bucks.
There you go.
And speaking of that, with the fact that mine, it's about all there is to talk about. There's really not a whole lot to take away from. I mean, I guess you could say I aimed for the opposite shoulder, but it was a dead broadside shot, knew the distance, and was able to keep in mind that he might be a little bit more on edge because I did stop him. But moments later, we had another buck come in.
We did.
And that's going to be our next clip here. So this was Paul's hunt. So do you want to introduce us to what's going on?
Sure. After the excitement of watching Bo kill his deer out of this stand, unfortunately Jim was at work that day, so it was me and Bo, which was always fun to hunt with Bo. But it was a nice morning, and he got his buck, and we were super happy, and we had enough time, and we said, well, we'll just see what happens. So we kept hunting. So it was what, maybe half hour later, if
Yeah,
that.
about a half an hour.
Yeah,
maybe.
about a half an hour. From the east, we see a deer coming in, and it's a buck. It's not a huge buck, but it's a buck. So, in the excitement of saying that we could possibly get 2 bucks in one day, we decided to try to get this buck to come in. So Bo takes over the camera and grunts for me a couple times. This deer starts to run up the path, the north path, a little bit. Not run, but he's walking. And Bo actually gets him to turn around, and he's coming down the path, and he's only literally 20 yards away. And I grunt at him or do a bleat. He stops, and I shoot, and it looks like I did hit him. He kind of just, flinches a little bit, and then kind of walks away and just kind of stands there and is kind of looking around. I'm like, there's no way I missed that deer. Well, what I did was, what we were just talking about through both of Jim and Bo's hunts, where they talked to the opposite shoulder, I should have listened to that because I did not do that, which I know in my brain that I should have, but in the excitement of the hunt, you just shoot. And I try to watch a lot of videos and get other people's opinions when I should take these guys' opinions because they've been doing this a lot longer than I have. But I was going for a triangle. There's people online that talk about a triangle. Well, that kind of made sense, but as it turns out, you really have to shoot for that opposite shoulder. I mean, that's really the best way that you're going to know that you're going to get all the vitals you can get, and it's going to drop that deer within, a couple 10, to 70 yards, hopefully. So, but I shot this deer, and he just acts like nothing happened. And then I know Jim's probably going to put this in the bloopers, but I make one of the dumbest, most idiotic statements I've ever made because I was shooting a new Raven R26 crossbow, and that thing is blazing fast.
It's a rocket.
So I make the stupid comment, well, maybe it goes so fast that he didn't even realize he got shot, which is idiotic. So I know that he's going to do something like that. But anyway,
it's in the video. It's part of your post-shot interview. Yeah.
My adrenaline was going. I'm trying to think of things to
It's a lot
say,
happening.
and I say stupid things sometimes. Anyway, so this deer is, acting like nothing has happened, and he just meanders off and kind of walks up the hill. And we actually tried to get him to come back so I can shoot him again because I'm cranking my crossbow back, putting another bolt in.
Yeah.
And he goes up and goes off. So we get down because we're super jazzed, and I'm kind of nervous that I missed this buck. So we get down and we find my bolt. It's got blood on it. It's got what we find is corn in it. So I gut shot this deer. But there's blood, and there's a lot of blood when he goes up. And we find both distinct blood trails, and we find that it goes out. So we call Jim, and he takes off from work, comes and helps us, and we find Bo's, rather quickly. And then we start trailing mine. And then the blood's getting less and less, so I'm getting more and more nervous. So we eventually end up bumping the deer and decide he's getting real close to a point that we cannot bump this deer off the land that we're allowed to hunt on. So we decided to back off, and that was one of the toughest decisions I've had to make, because I've been down this road before. My very first deer that I shot, I had a good shot on that deer, but his lung actually not healed itself, but it closed up enough to where he was able to run around. And then the next day we went out hunting, and I was able to get that deer. That's another story. But so
it is.
Yes, but so it was a tough decision to do, but it ended up being the right decision. We went out the next day, and I was lucky enough to recover the deer, so that was great news. And I looked, and the shot was decent. It was back, more than it should have been, but it was one of those things, and I think Jim alluded to it earlier, that Bo went through. You go home thinking, you try to do everything correctly, and if I wouldn't have found that deer, I don't know if I would have been here now, because I had a real tough time, because I don't want to just maim and hurt these animals. I want to make a good shot, and I want to make a good kill, and it ended up good, so I'm happy, and I just tried to practice as much as possible, and now I will forever shoot at that opposite shoulder. So,
well, and that's that's our aim point, or that's what we talk about.
Sure.
But if and we'll pull this video or this picture back up, so you can see we've got it highlighted where that point of impact was at, and we've all been there. You're in the tree, just like he said. These guys just dispatched another buck, right? They're both kind of ringing on cloud nine. The text to me was 45 minutes apart.
Yeah.
And the first text was probably not sunrise yet. Probably within 5 minutes of sunrise, but I mean in the legal time. But it was a pretty quick morning for that first deer.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, here's the second one. We can double up, we're taking him, right? So this deer comes in, right? It's a textbook 20-yard shot, just like Paul said. If that deer's standing broadside, completely broadside, or even quartering away, that deer goes down within the 50 or 60 yards. They probably pile up together.
Yeah.
Because their blood trails intersect at one point. They headed out on the same path. But if you look here, he's just a little bit quartering to. Not what you would really call it, but the trigger for me would be that back leg. I would see the back leg, right? I can see that offside forward.
Right.
And he's just standing. He's not getting ready to jump, bolt, or whatever. So that would be my key, right? I'm going tight. So Paul put a great broadside shot on this deer, but unfortunately, he clipped the back of the onside lung and then went liver and stomach on the exit. So it's just a matter of 3 inches, 4 inches. You pull up into the middle, we know that those deer that are clipped, even a double lung hit on the back edge of both lungs, and I don't understand enough about anatomy of the lung itself, but that back edge, for some reason, they can hang on a little farther. That's, if you catch the back edge of both lungs, that's still a 200-yard blood trail trying to find that deer. And then this one, like I said, he had one lung, and we got to about 40 yards of the property, because we started to trailing, and then we said, nope, he's gone too far. The blood was starting to look like liver blood only, so we were getting some bubbles, right, because we had the one lung. We did have some stomach matter at the point of impact, but there was just a lot of things there that finally we said, no, this blood's turning over to lung blood, we're stopping. And then we took care of processed Bo's deer, got it out. It was probably a couple hours. We go back, take up the trail, and right at the point where I would have pulled us out again, because we start to see that clear stomach bile, and we're losing blood completely. There's a little bit of mix. Right at that point, we kind of come out of a little pocket, and up he stood and started off, and that's when we backed out.
Yep.
We got out of there, and I'm assuming his next bed is where we found him the next morning.
Yes.
But it's a matter of inches. It's a game of inches. You can be too high, too low. People talk about no man's land. That can take you a little out of the game. a little bit too low, you can connect with the deer too low and not get the vitals. So it is a game of inches and angles.
Yep.
So.
And it's certainly, I mean, it is interesting, like you said, you've got it highlighted here. Even where that goes in with him slightly quartered, like if that's just an inch or two forward,
Yep.
that's a much quicker blood trail, you know, even
Yeah.
if that's not like
Well,
exactly.
he takes an inch or two forward, he takes out the middle of that
Right.
row and catches
Yeah,
the back
instead
of the
of
other one
flipping
going
them
out.
back.
Yep,
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah, but again, the miracle of video got us on this one because after Paul took that shot, me and him were quite confused because Paul was, you know, like he was saying, I'm so certain I hit that deer, and I was watching the thing through the viewfinder, so I couldn't really see where the arrow made impact and all that stuff.
Right.
But when you go back, you're able to actually tell pretty well where that arrow gets through him, and then from there, it's.
And then you
I'll
actually
lead you to the rest of the story.
Yeah, you actually pointed out when he goes up and turns and you see his right side,
Mhm.
you can see, I was using a slick trick, raptor trick, and it opens up to about 2 inches and you can see the gaping hole.
Yes.
You pointed that out to
Yeah.
me, and, you know.
Yeah, we found
was
that out
crazy
later as
afterward.
we were watching that video. We were trying to grunt at him again. You can see that big hole
Yeah.
coming
Yeah,
out.
it was huge.
You know, a little bit further back here.
Right.
Which again just goes to the kind of shot placement thing.
Yep.
And the whole, you know, opposite shoulder deal. It's not like we're some, you know, pioneers of the hunting industry here, and it's not like we always meet that goal. But that, I guess, is just kind of like sort of a benchmark, good thing to keep
Yeah,
in
it's-
mind
it
that works
absolutely-
for us to
Yep.
try to, you know, be able to figure out, you know, on those angles. Okay, where do I really need to be aiming
Yeah,
to make
right.
the shot
Yep.
I want to make on this deer?
Well, I think as we start to bow hunt, if you're new to bow hunting, don't have a lot of experience in actually taking or harvesting an animal, there is they call it the V, and I know that's what Paul's referencing when he talks about the triangle. You'll hear guys talk about it, and they'll show a kind of a 3D view of an anatomy or
Right.
you know, a skeletal deer or whatever, and that front shoulder comes down at a hard angle forward and then into that leg bone, and it creates a little bit of a V there. So guys will say stay forward in the V, and you can. That's why I say I'm a forward guy, because I know there's not bone there. Yeah, that shoulder blade's there. You get into that shoulder blade, you're way forward. You're much farther forward most of the time. That shoulder blade is much farther forward than people realize.
Yeah.
It really pins out there, you know, because it tapers off quickly on that back side,
Right.
and it opens up, and that's a great spot to shoot. So, you know, guys will talk about up that leg. I like to shoot right at the center. If it's a broadside shot, my aim point's going to be right up the leg, and that puts you right in that V, you know, in that bottom third of the animal or the kill zone, right up that leg if it's a broadside shot. And there again, not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but that's just our takeaway. That's our experience. And then the offside shoulder, that's just something I use as a aim point for me. So hopefully you can pick up a little bit out of this and take it with you. Maybe it'll help you in the woods sometime. But, you know, just some examples we wanted to show. I thought it was a pretty cool season to have so many variables happen really within a month.
Yeah.
Month
Yeah.
and a half there. You
Right.
know, we had a real short season kind of for us. I mean, as far as having quick success and or quick opportunities and success. You know, we hunt some small parcels of land. We work. It's not, you know, we take some vacation time, but we don't have all the time in the world to hunt. But we enjoy when we do.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yep.
So definitely a lot to learn there for us about both, you know, shot placement and just kind of, you know, reading the situation and other things to keep in mind, you know, the behavior of the deer when you're taking a shot, and kind of things that you might be able to do to, you know, maximize your chances and sort of increase the likelihood of things, or decrease the likelihood of things going wrong.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that about wraps us up for
Yeah.
our shot placement video here. I'm sure we'll be getting some stuff to you here pretty soon. The season's just about to start up. It's August 30th today, and we open up on the 26th of September.
Exactly.
So getting ready for our annual Labor Day shoot here next weekend. I don't know.
That's crazy. It's here already.
Yeah.
It is nuts. I can't wait. Maybe we'll have, I don't know, maybe one less jaunt to go out and check some stands or something like that. But I think we're about wrapped up and basically just waiting on the season. I think we've hit all the points. So I think it'll probably wrap up today's episode. make sure obviously you stick around. Keep watching the YouTube channel. Subscribe for updates because we'll have something coming at you soon, especially with the season getting ready. And you can follow us on all the social media stuff is out there. You know, we got Twitter, Instagram.
Yep.
Yeah, and
All
if
that
you check
good
us out
stuff
at
at
CCO Outdoors,
Right.
that's
Yep.
coming. Big announcement for website coming our way.
Yep. Yep. Got some
Coming your
other-
way, I guess. We'll have a little bit of merchandise on there, maybe some articles and some things like that. We'll let you know when that gets out. But yeah, so
Yeah. So till then, stay tuned and always respect the hunt.